My name is Tyler McDonald. I work with adults out in American Fork, Utah, in private practice.
Hi, so I'm David Burrows. I'm also here in American Fork, but I see clients in person in Orem and do a lot of telehealth, mostly with adults.
My name is Bruce Miller. I'm an LCSW and a registered play therapist. My ages are 4 to 104, and I do in-person and virtual 14 plus ages.
Hi, my name's Billy Bry Boswell. I work in a solo private practice in Flagstaff, Arizona, and I work primarily with adults, and I will also work with couples here and there.
Hi, my name's Kaylin Ide. I work in Salt Lake primarily with adults and teens.
I'm Kelly Pratt. I work locally with adults in Eugene, Oregon, and virtually with adults throughout the state of Oregon.
Okay, so this is Zach Harris. Does anybody here recognize Zach outside of just seeing him in a previous session? In this session, we're working with a process called 3-chair. It's a form of empty chair that I use to try to help somebody out with an internal conflict that they're experiencing. There's a third chair that comes into place that I utilize. I call it the mediator chair. It kind of works as this part of them that's observing the conflict, and its whole job is just to see the conflict and then provide support, offer advice or help to these parts to help them to basically navigate and overcome the conflict. The internal conflict that Zach is coming in with, one part of him wants to people please, and this other part of him really wants to be able to care for himself, support himself. The feedback that I am specifically looking for, what do you notice about Zach as he's going through this? And then also, what might you do differently? Or how would you continue your work with Zach moving forward? All righty, let's go ahead and start with Zach.
Could you try for just a moment? Could you tell him I matter?
I need you to know that, my feelings and I matter for this as well, because I feel like as much as you're trying to solve everybody else's problems, you're neglecting our own problems, which is, our mental health and our stressors and everything else that matters for our family, because then some of those get neglected because we're trying to solve everybody else's problems.
What's it like when he doesn't see you in this way?
I mean, that's what's tough, is I think he knows, but he's just afraid that if he listens to that voice, that he will lose somebody, because it's happened before, and it is something that is a constant worry now when dealing with others, and that that we'll lose them, and then because of that loss of that relationship, you'll lose others that are tied to them as well, just through the sheer fact that that relationship is harmed. And so,
could you tell him a little bit more directly, if you listen to me, you will lose people? That's what I heard from you. If you listen to me, you'll lose people.
I mean, if you listen to me and prioritize yourself, you could and have lost people before, lost relationships that matter, and for not a short amount of time, for extended periods of time, that you didn't have that relationship with that person for a while. And that's what I think you are afraid of when trying to prioritize yourself.
What does that feel like for you, saying that?
It's hard, because as much as I want to be able to, shake him or try to tell him what he's doing, what he needs to be doing is different or anything like that. I can see why he acts that way is because we have real world examples of that happening. It isn't something that we have to, it's like a anxiety or stressor of things that could potentially happen. It has happened, and it's hard to argue with that.
You're trying to tell him, if anything, I get it.
Yeah.
Is there anything else that you want to say to him at this time? Anything else that would stand out that would be important? If we have time, I'd like to come back to you. I'm just wondering.
I mean, the only thing I would say is that for when he doesn't prioritize my feelings, I think that...
Tell him directly if you can.
When I feel like you don't prioritize your feelings and my feelings, is that you take on more than you should, and then you're not able to be as present in everything because there's only so much of you to go around, so much bandwidth, and when you try to please everybody, you end up pleasing nobody. And I just wish we could set better boundaries so that we could make ourselves happy, but also the people we do choose to make happy as well. I think they would be better. Mostly just like a quality over quantity in this sense.
Good. Do you feel like he's heard what you've had to say?
I feel like that. I feel like he's heard some of the issues with kind of the current behavior and understands. So
good. Let's go ahead then and have you stand up. And I want you to leave that Zach in that chair and go ahead and sit down in this chair as this Zach. Take a moment and really just feel whatever it is that comes up while you're sitting there in that chair. You've heard everything that's been said. Just take it in, and when you feel ready, you're welcome to either respond or tell me what you're noticing.
A little guilt, I would say. Just it's almost like I'm trying to accommodate my own self as well. And I feel guilty that I've let myself down. And it was just hard to hear how much I feel like I've neglected that Zach.
Could you tell him?
I'm sorry that I've neglected our own feelings and your feelings and prioritized others, because as much as it is hard to try to make everyone else happy, it is almost easier because you kind of don't have to think. You can just do what other people tell you, and it is something that you can just kind of fall in line and just do it. And I think it's something that you can just turn off your brain a little bit and just say, hey, they need me to do this, so let's do that. So I'm just feeling, just a little disappointed in myself sitting here. So,
is there anything that you want to do with that disappointment other than apologize? Anything else that would be helpful for you?
I would say try to listen to myself a little bit more, listen to him in the sense of not turning off my brain, not just ignoring my own feelings when I have these situations come up, just because it's easier, and just to have it stop and try to reflect a little bit more, and I don't want to say make a game plan, but just have something that I can refer back to so that we're not in conflict so much.
Yeah. What did you take from when he mentioned, if you listen to me, you'll lose people? You have lost people. What did you take from that?
I mean, that is something that I know is a possibility, and it isn't an unfounded fear, because it's happened, more than once, and I don't want to say that I fear that happening, but I just know that is always a possibility when making these kind of decisions. And it's just a constant worry. I feel like every word that is uttered when dealing with some of these people and these family members, I have to carefully craft to make sure it doesn't hurt their feelings in any way.
Okay. Is there anything else that you'd want to say to him? Anything else that stands out that'd be helpful at this time?
Just that I wish we could find a balance, because as much as it would be nice to prioritize myself all the time, I know that's not really possible. And I wish that we could be able to have just a very clear, kind of give and take of being able to try to maintain these relationships, but also not listening to him when he needs to be listened to, when trying to prioritize more immediate family and this Zach as well.
Yeah. Okay. Do you feel like he's heard what you've said?
I think so. I think he's known all of this, and he's just still frustrated at the way it is.
Okay. Let's go ahead, especially for the sake of time, let's have you stand up and leave that Zach there. I want you to go ahead and sit over in this chair. I'm going to switch sides, and I'm going to sit over here in the middle in between the two. They're still here. This chair that you're in right now is kind of the version of you that's just seeing this struggle happen. You're seeing these two different parts. There's less conflict here. They kind of almost seem to be in an agreement, but they don't know exactly what to do in response to it.
Yeah, just a helplessness, I would say.
Tell me more about this Zach. Help me understand him.
I mean, that one I would definitely say is just someone who is tired at the way that things are and have been for so long. And now that his life isn't just about him, it is about his more immediate family as well. He feels like things have to change. Otherwise, something worse could happen to his immediate family and to his well-being.
What do you think about what he said to him, what this Zach said, that statement of, if you listen to me, you will lose people. You have lost people. Like, it felt like to me, this part described feeling guilty. That felt like guilt to me. Like, it was like, when you listen to me, and maybe I misunderstood that, but when you listen to me, people fall away.
Yeah.
I've seen it already happen. It doesn't mean that I don't necessarily think it probably should happen, but I'm stuck in this scenario where we almost have to lose people, and it's tragic. What do you take from that?
I mean, I definitely see that he just sees that as a reality, and whether or not that will actually come to pass of losing people, I don't. I think maybe he sees it as something that could even be a necessary evil.
I see.
So,
Yeah.
and because when he has advocated for himself,
Yeah.
that's when we have lost people.
Yeah.
And he is frustrated that is the case, but ultimately maybe that has to be the case.
Yeah, it's not his fault. It's not either of their faults. The other people decide to leave because of that.
Yeah.
Okay, great. And I think that's even reflected to how he's describing his friendships or his relationship with his wife too.
Yeah.
Okay. Tell me about this Zach. Help me understand him.
I mean, that Zach I definitely see as someone who has been a proponent of the status quo. This is the way it's worked for, 3 decades now, and why would it need to change now? And this has worked for us and for him, and why change it until I think he just definitely sees as the other people need to change, or environmental factors need to change, whether or not those people leave us due to not his fault or anything like that. They just leave because of other factors, but he will not be the one to blame to why relationships fall away. And it's almost like taking a moral high ground of like, well, I did everything I could all the time, and so if something happened, then it's not his fault.
I see. How would you help them through this? How would you help them to come together?
I mean, in terms of what I would say is that I think that between both of them, they both have very valid points and feelings towards the situation.
Can you tell them that actually? Just say you both have valid points?
Yeah, I think both of you have valid points for the way that you treat each situation, and I don't feel like I can fault either one for doing something wrong. I don't think that's so black and white for this situation, but I think that the two of you would have to come together and, if it is actually writing it out or making some sort of game plan for dealing with these situations and sticking to it. And, we can have our somewhat people pleasing and it's to a certain degree, and that's okay. And we can have, on this side, the ability to prioritize yourself. But I think there just needs to be a balance and have something that is somewhat more concrete. Otherwise, it feels like they're just, especially this Zach is going to be, brushed aside when it's convenient.
And you don't want that, I'm guessing. You don't want this Zach to be brushed aside.
I don't believe so. I think that this Zach he's been brushed aside often.
Can you tell him that actually? Go ahead.
Yeah, I think that for a majority of our life, you have been pushed aside and neglected because it's been easier, and I feel like that's something that can't continue. It has been too difficult with having an immediate family to be able to not prioritize the more selfish tendencies. And I say selfish, but I don't think staying home with your kid and prioritizing their time with them is necessarily selfish, but that's the way some people look at it. So
In that case, being selfish doesn't have to be bad.
yeah.
Yeah. When I heard you say that I can't go on that way, that's paraphrasing a little bit, but what I really kind of heard underneath that is what you're really saying is, well, actually, technically, I could keep pushing him away.
Yeah.
I won't.
Yeah, I would say so.
Could you tell him that? Like, be more intentional about that?
I feel like I need to make a conscious effort not to push you away anymore, because I think that doing so has been actively harming our mental health and our stressors and just our general well-being.
Good. Anything else that you'd say to either of these two? Anything else that stands out that would be important at this time?
Just that I don't think either of them are bad guys. I think they're just trying to protect us in different ways.
Good. Okay. Let's go ahead and have you stand up. And I want you to just identify a chair. Which one has more energy, this Zach or this Zach? Which one needs to speak at this time?
I would say, especially sitting there now, I can definitely sense a lot more anger coming from this side.
Yeah.
I would probably say here then, just
I could tell there's like a sense of when you're standing up of like, I kind of don't want to go in that chair almost. Like I should, but like this is going to be a lot.
yeah. It is one of those things that anger, especially for men and everything, it's kind of demonized a little bit, but it is something that I feel can sometimes be a necessary and valid emotion, because it's what allows change. And seeing this Zach and seeing everything that he's had to put up with for so long and be trampled and being pushed aside,
Yeah.
he definitely feels like enough is enough, and we're not going to keep doing the same thing we're doing over. Yeah.
Go ahead real quick and actually embrace that. Say
I feel like things have to change, and they, I feel like they will change. I'm not going to let it be the same way it's been for this many years.
And I'm right to be angry about it.
Yeah, I feel like this anger is somewhat justified and something that deserves to be expressed and heard.
Good. Is there anything you'd want to say to either of these? The mediator, who's now just said, I won't do this anymore, or this other part that feels that guilt?
I'd probably just say to this mediator, just, thank you for hearing me and being able to justify my existence and my right to be heard. And I think, again, I don't feel like you, Zach, are doing anything harmful or bad, but I don't think we can continue living our lives in a healthy, happy manner, doing it the same way.
What I hear from you is you're saying, I don't think you're intending to do anything bad, but something bad is happening.
Yes.
Okay.
I agree.
Okay. Anything else that needs to be said to either of them?
Just, we're all trying to live our lives the best way we can, but I definitely think that something has to change and somebody has to advocate for Zach.
The thing I'm hearing from you when you say that is, I need your help.
Yeah.
Could you bring that up?
Yeah. I think I just need your help being able to help Zach be happy. And I don't think it's your fault, but he definitely has not been happy. I don't think that the circumstances has ever allowed him to feel those feelings with the current environment and situation. Is that was never a priority, and we can't keep doing it. We can't keep letting that slip by the wayside.
Good. Let's go ahead and have you stand up if you can. I want you to sit down on that chair. You've heard everything that's said from the mediator, from that side. What stands out? What do you notice?
Just that sense of guilt again, of just like, I was trying my best, and I can clearly see I wasn't making the best decisions for Zach or for you, but I was just trying to keep the peace and make everybody happy. But I don't want to say that I don't feel wanted anymore, but I can sense that I need to change, or else I feel like something bad could happen.
Mm-hmm. Can I tell you what I notice about what's coming up from them? When this part says that you're not intending to do anything bad, kind of what I hear from it too is that you have been necessary throughout a big part of this. To be perfectly honest with you, knowing what I know about your history, knowing about Zach's history from the sessions that we've had, you wouldn't have survived without you. Like, you're a big reason for why Zach is alive in the first place.
Yeah.
Is that fair to say?
I would say so. I think it's been a natural survival instinct.
Yeah.
And we're alive, aren't we?
I don't think that it was bad before. I think it was actually, it was bad that you had to do it. If anything, I kind of see you as the guard at the gates that's never been able to sleep. You've been stuck guarding the gate the entire time. What I'm kind of hearing from them is this part needs to come out, not only so that this Zach can have what he needs and be able to be part of it, but also so that you can go sleep.
Yeah.
It's kind of like high time you got a little bit of a break in a way. Like, the adjustment that's happening here is both of you working together so that you can accomplish this thing, rather than you just being stuck doing it all the time.
Yeah, I mean, that it feels like a never-ending vigil, just a constant preparedness, and always looking out for anything that I need to be wary of, or fix, or help.
Yeah, this whole dynamic that you've gotten pushed into, in a way, it's not just harming it. It's not just harming this Zach. It's also harmed you. Like, this is a really difficult situation you have all found yourself in, and there's a reason why this conflict exists. We're just supporting this side because this side needs to come out to help you in some way. At some point, it'd be helpful to come back to you and help you let go of that guard in some ways. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else that you would say to either of these sides?
I mean, I'm sorry. Like, I don't want to be this way, but this is all I've ever known.
Okay, we'll go ahead and pause it at that point. As you could see there at the end, like, the conflict actually started to come more into that left chair. Like, there was more struggle there. That's something that I would definitely like to revisit with him, to bring out the chairs again and to start working to some extent on the struggle of the left side, the part that is the people pleaser that has had to go all the time. Today we kind of focus more of that conflict of trying to bring this other part out so that it could, be a part of this process, because it's been pushed away for so long. But yeah, that's kind of the route down the road if we end up doing this again. In any case, I'll open it up to you now. What do you notice? What stands out to you?
I mean, I do notice he, remains flat a lot of the time, or kind of
Mhm.
flat as far as his affect. Um, but I do notice subtle changes in his body language, like when
Mhm.
he's in that providing for self Zach, and on the right side, he's
Yeah.
a little more faced, towards the other part, and whereas the other one, the people pleasing, he's kind of more just straight in his chair and almost looks a little sunken down.
Yeah,
So
totally.
it's a really good, interesting visualization of those parts.
Yeah, and that's not atypical with this process, by the way. When somebody actually really gets into it, I see that with all my clients that their body language actually legitimately changes based on what chair they're in when they're actually in it. It's really a cool thing to see that proximity actually does change like that. It changes at very least the body language. And I totally agree. He's kind of a little bit more loose in that right chair, and then the left chair, he is a little bit more sunken. Even when you see him in the mediator chair, he's kind of sitting a little bit more upright, ready to kind of provide that information. And it stays when he goes through it the second round. The same thing happens. We do, by the way, in this clip, we have him go back to the mediator, and the mediator just talks about how this is useful for him and how he sees that the conflict is already starting to ease, but that there's still more work to be done.
I wonder if you stuck the mediator in between the two, left side and right side, if
Mhm.
that would give us a little bit more information with body language, like which
Mhm.
side does he lean towards, which side does he directly look at more,
Mhm.
as to which side he feels like he needs to repair.
Yeah.
So I wonder, I don't know if you've ever tried it with the media. I like the mediator, by the way. I've never seen it
Yeah.
done that way. That's pretty amazing.
Yeah. Thank
But
you.
to see if he leans one direction or the other, that would be interesting.
Yes. I have done that, and that actually does happen quite naturally with clients where they will lean that. Even the next session, sometimes they'll be leaning, and we'll bring back up this, and they'll be like, "You're right, I am leaning more towards this side of the couch because of that." The only reason I don't do that is because, and I actually show this at the end of session, is the person usually sits down in the middle at the very beginning of work, and so they're usually sitting in that kind of middle seat already. And the problem is it starts to cause issues with mixing where they feel like the mediator is just themselves, which it's not. It's still a part that's observing. And so I actually, because of that, I have had them go to this different chair so that they could have enough of that difference of this is full Zach sitting in the middle here, and this is mediator Zach. One thing that does happen with this exercise a lot too, that people sometimes address in session or address the next session, is that sometimes that pull, that like dissociation that happens between these different parts is so significant that they still feel it after session's over. It's usually like a couple hours before they feel like they've actually come back together. And there's some stuff that I do at the end of this session to kind of help them out with that. And part of it is sitting in that middle chair. That's the only reason I don't do that. But I totally agree. And that does actually happen where they do actually lean to one side versus the other.
And kind of piggybacking on a bit of what David was saying, I've just noticing, yeah, that they're almost different people. The body language is different, but I felt like I could identify kind of like the main struggle for each individual. The individual sitting on the right, uh, let's see, yeah, feels pushed aside, neglected. The one on the left feels like um, that he kind of just goes with the status quo. I wrote down in my notes that I wonder if at times he lacks kind of this sense of accountability. He like puts it on other people, and then he
It's
comes
great.
in. Um, it's the first one that spoke on the right seems to like be very open, very forgiving of the other one, but I just have to wonder about the hurt that he's feeling. And I don't know, it just seemed like they're each experiencing a different kind of hurt. Uh,
Mm, yep.
and I think the third chair, the mediator, kind of started to identify that a little bit, but it still felt like a little under the surface to me as I watched it all.
One of the things that, if I can push a little bit further, one of the things that I actually noticed while watching it with you all is, and I got really interested in it all of a sudden, is that part where, he's having a hard time in that right chair being able to say what he needs to say, that he matters. Like, hey, I matter too. Like, I need to be taken care of too. But then when I have him in it the second time, he brings in that I bring this up with multiple chairs of him saying, if you follow me and listen to me, you'll lose people. And at first, I don't think I understood that. But then, like, as I was watching it with you all, I was like, oh, I think what he's really trying to mention there is, am I worthy enough for you to lose people? Like, do you care enough about who I am in this part or whatever to risk the fact that to take in that other people will leave you if you take me in? Am I worth that? And I didn't see that initially as a comment of worth, but I just piggybacking off of what you're saying there, Billy, that they each have their own struggle. Absolutely. And that's something I do want to bring up next session with him, whether or not we decide to do 3-chair again in that session. We will do it at some point moving forward to come back to this. But if he decides to go into it next session, I do want to address that as well. So yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, really nice job, Tyler. I really enjoyed watching some of the interventions of trying to, like, I guess these are more things that not necessarily that I would do differently like in this session, but maybe watching this in a following session. I noticed there are so many words. I felt like this client is so left brain. Like sometimes I felt myself getting a little sleepy in the words. This seems like a really great exercise in that their brain feels like they kind of work in that like panopticon. Like they're so good at really like seeing and seeing and attending to like all the needs that ability. So just watching, I was really struck by that comment you were just mentioning, like around the fear, like that really felt like a knowing from that part. And I liked your interpretation around it. I think I like there's a way to maybe like do some symptom deprivation, like even imagining like if that fear was really, at a low volume or wasn't there. So I guess my interventions are all around like gently introducing some contact with feeling, because that seems really, really cut off. And the other part that I'll just mention quickly too, that I think you also mentioned towards the end of that clip, when you were sort of saying like, yeah, this monitor really needs like a break. It was one of the few moments where I felt like a little bit of emotion crack in. And so I might have just slowed that down with the client of like, wow, I noticed that or hear that in your voice, like what is it like to hear me say that? Or what is it like to hear that? Because it really felt like some contact with feeling. So I'll end there, but those both just seem like this really nice foundation of work. Like there's just so much to maybe build upon for further exploration. So yeah.
Yeah,
Loved it.
absolutely. Yeah, thank you so much for that feedback. I kind of wish you were in the last one as well, the last session that we had him in, because I did bring that up a few times of he kind of pulls away from the emotion, and he will oftentimes even use language to pull away from the emotion, right? And yeah, I've noticed that. We were aware of that as well. And I kind of feel like after hearing, Bruce brought this up the last time too, that maybe there's a reason intuitively why I'm doing that. And I think, as I got more information from other groups that I'm a part of as well, as they'd kind of brought up, well, maybe there's something about me not feeling comfortable going into that space, that emotional space, because he doesn't feel comfortable. Maybe I'm trying to do this like just barely underneath the surface. I'm trying to give him like this step down instead of kind of that big gap down, which I think quiet would kind of be almost too overwhelming for him. And so I think I kind of give him just little bits, little kind of stages almost or whatever, right? Of like, let's just go a little bit slower in this. And then as we move forward, as we gain more rapport, maybe that quiet and maybe that like, let's slow this down would help him. But from what I'm hearing from you is you see him and you think that he's actually ready for that is kind of what it sounds like.
Yeah, I'm thinking just even one or two moments of that through this.
Great.
And it seems like he is like it is client led, like he's introducing the fear. Those are his words. He had some emotion breaking through.
Yeah.
And I think one or two of those deepening, like that maybe just feels small to us or even uncomfortable for us, but it
Mm.
feels like he is opening the door for
Yeah.
kind of deepening.
Yeah.
Because I do feel with all these parts where I'm like, wow, like they're so tempered. Like when you
Yep.
asked about the anger, he used the word somewhat justified. And
Yeah.
there was
Yep.
this long explanation, and I wanted the therapist in me wanted to just like, oh, like to
Yep.
like gently intervene where like let's stick with that feeling for just a minute. Like and
Yeah.
using maybe really bite size, like for just a
Absolutely.
moment so that it feels not too overwhelming.
Yeah, I feel like the only worry of doing that here is that I might lose the exercise at that moment, that we might actually dive into something too much. But the other thing I do bring up in the last meeting that I did with him, where I shared him, is that I will go into that space with him and he'll kind of pull back, even if I want to. And so I'm still just trying to figure out how to navigate that. And maybe now's the time to bring that out more directly and to say that to, hey, let's slow that down and stay with that emotion a little bit longer. Because I'm right there with you. I see the cracks too. I see those moments where he does bring out that emotion too. And I see it and I'm like, I want to go there, but when I'm in it, for some reason I don't. And I'm still just trying to figure that one out.
It seems like I so get that, and it does feel like the knowing of the trans. So it's like nothing wrong about this video. It just seems
Mm,
like, yeah, the ability of watching this of where the work might lead.
yeah. Yeah. Well, great. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Any last feedback, Kaylin? Do you have anything that you want to add to this? Anything else that stands out?
Yeah,
Or David?
I guess I was thinking even just with what Kelly was saying, I think I was feeling really similarly of I want to like hop on these emotions that he's talking about and kind of brushing past a little bit.
Yeah.
And I wonder if there would almost be a place, maybe in a different setup or something to deal with the fear of why can't we go there? Like, what would it mean if we were to allow emotional access?
That's a great point. Yeah.
And so maybe, from a parts perspective, there could be a part that's kind of a blocker or a numbing agent
Yeah.
that you could maybe work with,
Yeah.
in something like this. I also loved the setup. I've used something similar, but never seen the mediator before. And I think that gave just a really
Yeah.
good perspective. And I also wondered if you've ever experimented with naming the different sides, like maybe
Yeah.
it's not Zach and Zach, it could be Steve and Fred. I don't know, whatever the client relates to,
Yeah.
kind of help to embody those different characters a little
It
more.
is, yeah, it is actually something that we do. If you're coming at it from like an IFS perspective, though, you'll see a little bit more blending in these parts. There's almost an allowed blending that happens there, just because the parts are maybe a little bit more complex. So sometimes people will start out with like, this is the anger in me, and then this is the sad me or whatever, right? And they will name them those things. But one of the fascinating parts about it, and probably it has to do with blending, is that these parts become more complex. They start to realize it's not just anger. Even though I call it anger, it's not just anger. It's not just sadness, even though I call it sadness. And so the only chair that I name is just the mediator chair. And it just feels kind of like a neutral, like this is just you observing, these different parts. But I do allow the client typically to name those parts. It didn't happen in this session, but typically it does happen. So. Yeah, thank you for that. One thing that I would add to that too, the mediator, this dynamic I've learned kind of shows you how their decision making happens, where they have one part of them that wants one thing, one that wants the other. And like Bruce was kind of talking about, if they lean more towards one, that shows you what decision they typically come up with. That's what they usually do. And actually, the mediator can end up in some trouble in the situation, because then the parts start to become aware of, you've always chosen this side versus choosing me. And then it actually brings out the pain of the mediator too, the part of them that is actually making the choice, that's choosing what to do despite the fact that the conflict is going on. Something I value as well. Any case, any last thoughts? We're just about any time. Any last things that anybody wants to bring up? Okay.
Thanks for sharing. It's cool to watch.
Thank you for joining us today for this demonstration. If you have any questions or concerns, please reach out to myself or another administrator, and we'll catch you down the road. Take care. Bye-bye.